Welcome to I Care Anew webinar 14, sharing tips for self-confidence while living with a visual impairment. My name is Sylvia Chengo and I am a campaigns and engagement intern at Thomas Bockington Trust. So I'd like to invite our guest speaker, Jennifer Smith. Jennifer?
Thank you, Sylvia and Bhavini, for this wonderful opportunity and platform to talk about self-confidence. And thank you for everybody that's listening to me today. Thank you for being here. So I was asked to do this webinar because it's Disability Pride Month. And I was able to look up and kind of see that it came about from having the American Disabilities Act in 1990. They started celebrating it becoming law, and from that we're globally celebrating Disability Pride Month. So I'm Jennifer Smith. I am the Working Age and Enrichment Officer at Croydon Vision, but I also have my own company called Anew, and I do life coaching, and I'm a certified mediator. So I work specifically with people who have sight loss or invisible disabilities. I have a journey. I have keratoconus. I also have glaucoma, and I went through a period of rejection in my left eye, which is blind, and I have little sight in my right eye. So I've gone through this sight loss journey, and I got to understand a lot about the losses, as people say, but I put an N on it and say it's a lesson. Sometimes it's teaching you something, but it can be very, when you're going through that journey, it can be very hard to understand what's happening. And I was really, part of the reason I do life coaching is that I found that a lot of people who have a visual impairment, any type of sight loss, or they're born blind, or they have any kind of sight loss, visual impairment, sighted people were trying to teach them things, and they couldn't actually do it in the way that maybe someone could apply to their life. And I remember doing a training course once, and it was run by some sighted people, and you had to put the blindfold on, this visual awareness training, put the blindfold on, butter the bread, touch the money. And I sat down and they wanted me to get involved, but I thought, well, I don't need to have a blindfold, and I don't need to be buttering the bread. I'm living this life. So it got me thinking about, what about other people that sometimes are put into that situation like me and are not able to speak up? How can I assist someone? Because not everybody's going to have the same experiences or be able to do the things the same way as someone else. So it's a privilege today to talk about some of the skills that I've just picked up. Because one of the things is, last week I ran a workshop and I talked about the fact, do you think disability and pride, do those two words really go together when you think about them? And I think they should. Often disability is low on the list of priorities for anybody, whether that's government, communities, wherever we are in the sphere. It often feels like it's burdensome. You talk to someone and you say, oh, you're not doing this, and then it's like, oh, that's a challenge for us, or it's going to cost us money, or it's going to take up time. And I think it's very important that we're able to self-advocate and talk for ourselves, because it's always an afterthought. And an afterthought means that it will present challenges for everyone. I've learned, as someone who has sight loss, how difficult it can be to navigate a world that doesn't really include you at the beginning. So I didn't really do a PowerPoint presentation because I find it kind of difficult to talk and kind of regulate that at the same time. So I will try not to bore you too much, but talk to you a lot about how to kind of, I call this, Bhavini and Sylvia asked me to do a presentation. I told them I'm going to call it How to Cultivate Confidence. And the reason I say cultivate confidence is that personally, I don't think you can like grow confidence overnight. It's a process. And like anything, it takes a bit of preparation, and then it takes a bit of kind of developing it for yourself, because not everything is going to work. You know, we live in the world that doesn't really accept us and is always challenging us in different ways. And it takes a lot of energy and a lot of thought. I don't have to kind of explain to everybody that, you know, your route learning, you know, using your cane. We have the transport stuff coming up where they're going to be making all these closures. That things are always, those obstacles are always kind of put in our way. And the fight and battles that we have in everyday life, and then we have other things changing around us, can take a lot of energy. And I think sometimes we don't recognize our own skills and how adaptable we are, because we just do it. For want of a word, I think we're quite powerful people, but the world hasn't actually understood us. And that's why sometimes our confidence can be dented, it can be knocked, it can be pushed aside. And so I wanted to talk about, you know, like, if your confidence is knocked or your confidence is dented, how can you kind of not brush it over, but get yourself back up? Because it's very difficult to do when you're navigating all other challenges that are there and changes. I was looking at a dictionary definition of confidence, and it was talking about, let me just see what it actually said. It said something like feeling sure, or one of the definitions, feeling sure of yourself and your abilities, not in an arrogant way, but in a realistic and secure manner. And I thought that was very relevant, because it says feeling sure of yourself and your abilities. And although the world says disability, it's actually an ability. I think, personally, I call it an air of assurance, because someone will try and knock the stuffing out of you, the air out of you. They might criticize you, not understand you, misunderstand you, you know, find it a bit too much trouble. But it's up to you how you can galvanize yourself and kind of root yourself in gaining that confidence, because it can be developed. I believe it can be learned. I believe that we see people that are confident in life. It might be a professional, it might be a relative, it might be a community leader, it might be a celebrity, but we sense that these people are very confident, and sometimes we can pick up something positive that they're doing, that we can kind of adapt to ourselves. So I think that's one of the ways where we can kind of pick up on, you know, different cues and different traits, and avail ourselves of it, really. I was thinking of, you know, who would I say is confident? And because I think sometimes we're listening a lot to people, and we're hearing them talk, and we're hearing them be very articulate in what they're saying. You know, maybe it'd be someone that like for me, maybe it's like a Barack Obama, not someone with sight loss, but someone who's very eloquent and articulate and understands that when they're giving a speech, it has a purpose and a kind of benefit. And he walks with an air of assurance. And so I think, you know, there's things that we can pick up and cues that maybe we can pick up and take for ourselves. And so when I was thinking about doing this, I was thinking, why is confidence really, really important for people who are VI? And how can we like self-advocate for who we are and set boundaries without appearing hostile or aggressive or you know, the feeling that we're not getting what we need across. Often people misunderstand, and that comes from just people not having that knowledge. And I think the only way people will get knowledge is if we advocate for it, if we speak from wherever we are. But you have to be you have to have a sense of assurance or reassurance to do it. So I was just going to say to you, I said cultivate confidence. And I said it's because I think it's something that we grow. And I was thinking of confidence as the landmass, you know, like the land that you have. But we can get little seeds, can't we, that we plant. And when you plant that seed, it has to grow roots in that darkness. And for a lot of us, that's how we live our lives, in that darkness, whether it's shapes, whether it's colors, whether it's light. And it's understanding how we grow our own roots because we want to be the ones that spring up. And sometimes I think it's really hard because people are in routines. You know, you might have someone that helps you and you're starting to gain confidence and they're thinking, oh my gosh, this person is changing, adapting, they won't need me like this again. So it's understanding how you can utilize your own habits, so you're able to get across what you need whenever you need it. Because I find that obviously sighted people are always looking for things like body language. They're looking for gestures. They're looking for those cues that we can't actually give them. But they're looking at it from us. And that's why sometimes we're misunderstood. And then it's hard to kind of galvanize something back. If you're trying to talk to someone and they've misunderstood you, you kind of lost, not necessarily the battle, but you've lost like that thread of thought or that sentence. So for me, it's really, really, I want to encourage people to kind of grow those roots so that you can kind of make that confidence come out of that seed, you know, and those roots might be something like thinking of what you want when you're going somewhere, what you need, what you're going to say, but also sometimes accepting help, you know. So we can self-advocate, but sometimes maybe we're not able to self-advocate the way we want. So we need to take like a little step back and say, actually, maybe someone could do it a bit, you know, a little bit better this time for me. But then you could listen to them or watch the cues and see how they're getting across your point. So you could just pick some things up, because that's how usually people learn. You know, someone does something and then someone else does it, and you know, you just keep, you know, you don't reinvent the wheel. You just make some nice kind of spokes, you know, some little spoilers, a little hubcap, you know. You make all these different things, but you're not actually changing the wheel at all. So I think it's very important that we actually sometimes allow the help, as well as understanding, you know, how to self-advocate and when it's necessary. You know, like some people say, choose your battles, but it's not really a battle. It's more of a thought, and more of a way of how to progress. So I was thinking of the land because I think, you know, there's some people we know that have lots of confidence, you know, masses of land. And there's some people that have, you know, they're confident, but in their own way, are very small. And I'm thinking of that seed and those roots because it's up to you to put it down, make it secure before you burst forth, because it can be quite challenging to make changes, and it's only by making like small changes over time. I use the pandemic in some of my talks because I wanted people to understand that even though the whole globe felt it was negative, people with disabilities are still living that life. You know, something's forced on you, you have no choice. You have to get on with it. And everybody had a taste of that life where something was forced on you, where you had to follow rules, where you were isolated, where human contact was limited. Everybody went through that, and I try and use it in a positive light to show how we're always, you know, people with sight loss, visual impairment, when we want to get into employment, you know, people are very, we can't adapt this, we can't do this. And suddenly, overnight, you know, corporations and organizations were doing home working, you know, people getting these massive Wi-Fis and things to their house. Things can happen and develop. And you know, as I said, I put a spin on the pandemic. So people, you know, how did it feel for you when you were isolated? How did it feel for you? Because people are still going through that life. It hasn't changed for a lot of people. So it's, you know, using a thread like that to say to people, how does it feel for you? Because I'm still living that life. I'm still, you know, I still have sight loss. It's part of who I am, and it designs my life, but it doesn't define my whole of my character. And so I think doing little things and being able to speak, to spin as such, you know, spin a narrative on someone. How does it feel for you? Puts it in a different light as such. And I know sometimes it's not appropriate necessarily. You know, confidence isn't going to. You're not going to need to be confident in every single sphere that you go to, but it's having that little seed and watering it consistently, so that when you need it, you can burst it. You can actually. This is the right time for me to utilize it. This is the right time for me to speak up. Yeah, I didn't feel confident, and it's understanding. Yeah, maybe, you know, yesterday you didn't feel confident, but that's okay. You've got today. You know, tomorrow isn't here yet, but you've got today. And if you don't use it today, you know, you've still got it there. You know, it's like you're constantly like not just necessarily pruning it, but growing it, developing it, designing it, because we all don't access our environments in all the same way. You know, you might have a guide dog, you might have your symbol cane, you might have your long cane. You know, we all have different ways of accessing. So it's understanding when you need to use it and when you don't, when you're comfortable, when you're uncomfortable, assessing the situations. I think that, you know, for a lot of us, you know, people talk about we have these powers. No, we just utilize our senses that are necessary at a time. And sometimes we can gauge that more than other people, but obviously it's not valuable to them, so they don't understand that we're using more of it. Maybe they think it's some kind of, I don't know, different thing. So it's just understanding that, because, you know, once you have that root, that's how you can stand firm in who you are and understanding who you are. Who you are is different to everybody else. And we know that by our fingerprints, don't we? So it's understanding how to stand firm and stand in what is factual for you and what's true for you. And it might not be that it's factual for someone else, but it's the way that you need to access your environment, and it's the way you need to get on and kind of persevere and do what's necessary, because we all have purpose. Whether we understand it or we've identified it, we all have purpose. And we know how difficult it is sometimes, just for other people to recognize we have purpose, because the value isn't seen. As I said, I did a workshop last week, and one of the people said, I feel, oh no, he was talking about the doctors, and the doctor told him he'd like him to do a talk, and he said, I feel valued now because I'm wanted. So, sometimes it is that value that comes with it, that reassurance, because when that comes, I think you can feel more confident in yourself. But I wanted to just talk about, I had a yoga teacher that used to come and teach a class, and she did a really, really simple exercise with us. But it's kind of changed how I think about my body and my posture. So she came into the class, and we didn't say what, she just said she was going to do a short session. And she said, right, I want everybody to do this. And she said, when you sit in a chair, put your backside right to the back of the chair and then sit down, because then your posture will be more upright and your chest will be more open and you'll get more oxygen. And I didn't think about, I hadn't ever thought about it, but I naturally noticed everybody was sitting up. And I realized that I've done a lot of studying on like neurology and brain health. And I realized that when she was talking about the chest getting more oxygen, actually the brain was getting more oxygen. And your whole body, the whole system of the blood. And I thought, how important is that? And then I kind of related it to how we are as VI people, because you could be going for an interview, you could be going to an appointment. People that are sighted are looking for cues and they're looking for body language, but just sitting up already makes you look more confident. It changes your posture. And it's one of the things that I've constantly used, because I immediately saw everybody just, they were sitting in a chair and their shoulders was, and suddenly they were all sitting up. And I thought, how amazing is that? We didn't actually need to be sighted to do it. We just needed to actually position ourselves in the right way. So even something as simple as sitting up is giving a cue of confidence. And, it's something we can use because we are not able to give cues in the same way as other people are. So that's an exercise I thought that people might be, sometimes I find myself and then I think, actually maybe my I need to get some more oxygen to my brain and start that thinking process. I just wanted to add that one of the things I think is really relevant is, as I said, disability is often not seen as a priority. And as VI people, I heard, I'm sure people have had it, someone jumping over a cane, someone petting your guide dog, these things that we just have to brush off, or someone grabbing your arm and thinking they're being helpful, and it still goes on. And I think sometimes it's understanding, I call it the Duracell kind of remedy, because in order for the battery to work, you have to have a plus and a minus. You can't have a plus and a plus or a minus and a minus. You have to have that plus and minus for the circuit to go round. And I think it's just understanding that sometimes we are going to have more challenges, and understanding how to ground yourself, taking that time. I just say, when I'm dealing with people, if you're walking somewhere and you're feeling something, you don't even have to tell somebody. Maybe you just, in your mind, you just stop for a moment. You just take that pause and you just take that deep breath just to ground yourself back again. Easier said than done, because sometimes we can, you're using up so much energy, you're going here, there and everywhere, and challenges are there. But just that moment, you may be walking with someone, just to just stop and just have that pause and that breath, just to ground yourself, because that's another part of the confidence, understanding how to ground yourself, and that's not, we're not going to change everybody that we meet along the way, but we can change our reaction so that we still keep ourselves grounded, because it can be very, I'm sure people have been infuriated and frustrated, and sometimes that's not meant to be, but we can take it on and get very, very kind of angst, and it really doesn't help us kind of move forward. It can be very challenging because you can go and talk about it for the whole day, but it doesn't change the situation that just happened. So sometimes I just think it's just to take, it doesn't matter if it's a second, and it doesn't matter if it's only a moment. Just that stop and that pause and that breath will actually kind of ground you back. And I think it's like, I'm trying to keep kind of to the time quickly, but I just think there's three things that go with being confident. That's being consistent, being clear, and being committed. Just make a commitment to yourself. I'm going to find something. My slogan for my company is don't doubt, create. So doubt's going to come in, just like those weeds are going to come in and get those seeds. Doubt, uncertainty, people's criticism, negativity. Try and find something when that comes in that will help you feel more positive. So there I go. Thank you very much for this time. I hope that there are some points there that you might take away and be able to utilize. But yeah, thank you very much. My presentation of being, having that calm, those clear, committed and consistent goals will help each other. Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. That was brilliant. Our next webinar will be on the 15th of August, and it will be about, we'll be introducing the accessibility tech available to blind and partially sighted people on devices like mobile phones, tablets, and laptops. We hope to see you there. Happy Disability Pride Month.